All About Beer receives underwriting support from 49th State Brewing. They understand the importance of independent journalism in the beer space, and their support helps fund original work. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl, 2 for 1 on this episode as I talk with a duo of Colorado brewers who teamed up to create something special for the upcoming Collaboration Beer Festival happening in the Rocky Mountain State next month. What goes into collaborations? How does it stoke creativity? And what should brewers learn from each other? We discuss it all and more. But first, I've been talking about this on the show for a very long time now. Sometimes you hear Andy Crouch at the cold open of the shows. The way we're able to keep bringing original content to the beer industry and to curious beer drinkers, which is you who listen to this show, is through your support. We've created what we think is an affordable underwriting program that is easy on your budget, helps you get visibility, and is an altruistic way to directly fund writers, photographers, and editors. If you believe in local news, small news, important news, for the beer that you like to drink and the industry that you care about, please go visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. When you're at the website, poke around a bit. You can read some of the recent articles that are funded by our underwriters. You can peruse the archives, which go all the way back to the 1970s. 1979 is when we were founded. You can tune into other podcasts like Brewer to Brewer, One Iconic Beer, and the All About Beer podcast. You will not be disappointed. You can also follow us on social media at All About Beer to keep up with everything else we have going on. I'll get into this conversation in a moment, but first, here is a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
Hi, this is Tim Shasha from Berkeley Yeast. Our mission is to give brewers better tools that are affordable and easy to use. Our team has been developing Tropics yeast for nearly 10 years, and we just launched it in a dried format. This is a yeast strain with high thiol biotransformation activity, which means it's great for making tropical forward hazy IPAs. I'll tell you more about how it works later in the show, or you can check the show notes for our recent article called All About Thiols.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60 Minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60 Minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
Collaboration beer should be more than a photo op and a long lunch among head brewers. It should be an exchange of ideas, getting creative juices flowing, a chance to learn, bond, and to make a beer that brings delight to drinkers. That's on display at the annual Collaboration Beer Festival held each year in Colorado. It's a chance for brewers to get together in advance and create a beer that really brings creativity to the glass. To get a sense of what goes into one of these beers, I'm talking with 2 industry veterans who teamed up to create something special. Both Andy Parker and Ross Koenig have extensive history in Colorado. Parker spent years at Avery Brewing and then Denver Beer. He's now at Odyssey Beer Works. Koenig spent his career at New Belgium as the Brewing Innovations Manager and is now the brewmaster and owner at Second Dawn Brewing in Aurora. There's a lot to get into, so let's do it. Here's our conversation. Well, welcome to you both. With a wealth of knowledge between the two of you, I feel like we're in this interesting period in beer in America right now where there's some negative headlines out there about closings and uncertainty and et cetera, et cetera. But like, there's also, I think, some cool things to be looking at these days about what the future of beer can be and where smart brewers like yourselves are looking for inspiration to keep things moving in a positive way and build upon the cool history and background that craft in America has. And for a really long time, I think Colorado was where many of us looked. We could look to Southern California, we could look to Vermont, I think, and certainly we could look to Colorado. And every year when folks would come out for the Great American Beer Festival from around the country, we'd go and visit breweries. And I mean, the two that you two spend your times at. I think, long parts of your career at, led that charge in many ways. Um, and then things kind of, softened a little bit. And now I think we're on an upswing again, and people are thinking about innovation and thinking about flavor and all of that. But from a Colorado standpoint, what do you see as the state of beer right now? And what are you two excited about beer wise that the rest of us in the other parts of the country should be paying attention to?
Well, maybe I'll start.
Sure, Ross, go for it.
I think, one of the things that we've really, especially from a relatively newly launched brewery, maybe that's, kind of a little bit of a yin and yang between Andy and Odyssey being open for 13 years. We're just going into our fourth year as a new business. A lot of what we're really seeing, or at least where we're finding a good deal of success, is really just kind of a, really a disciplined approach, like getting back to mastering and demonstrating classic styles. I think as we've gotten into kind of like almost pretty much a full turn of, call it the innovation cycle, whatever. But, it started from, when Andy and I both started our careers, it was really, nobody knew what an IPA was. We were, all about just like introducing these classic styles, classically represented, getting people just to really kind of discover craft beer. And then as we've kind of gone through this giant wave of like, what is all the wacky, crazy, ridiculous stuff? We're really starting to, from our business, we're really starting to find it's just, you're getting a lot of people that are a lot more receptive to, just like, hey, I'm cutting a Helles this week. I'm making a Vienna lager, and people are like, wow, really? Like, can I have it? I made an Irish red for St. Patrick's Day, and I blew through the whole batch in like 2.5 weeks. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, people were stoked on Irish red. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I mean, we do all the crazy.
Where were you 10 years ago when we really needed you? Yeah.
No kidding, right? And so, it just as where Colorado is right now, I think we're kind of like shaking out a little bit of the, like people are still somewhat interested in all the crazy, wacky styles out there, but that seems to be like an increasingly like less major segment of the drinking populace. They seem to like, if I'm going to spend, like where things are in Colorado, I mean, the short answer is expensive in every sense of the word. Like rent's expensive, ingredients are expensive, staff is expensive, insurance expensive, everything's fucking expensive. And so I think most people, and especially on the consumer side, beer is expensive. And so I think like we're kind of going back to this cycle of like just classic styles, primarily in the way that like people are like, I just need to know that I'm getting a good beer. If I'm going to spend $15-20 on a 4-pack, the thing better be a banger. And
yeah. Cause I mean, also that 4-pack these days, it's that era of trading, I think, is over, and sharing with folks. It's if I'm going to buy this, I'm drinking this for myself, and this isn't just to have one. This is a proper session now.
Yeah.
Andy,
I'm going to echo a lot of what Ross said there. I mean, I agree that sometimes just, as someone who's worked on hundreds of crazy innovation projects and barrel aging, using every adjunct under the sun. And we have some adjuncted fun stuff here. But you know what one of our best sellers is right now? A 4% red ale. Because people want the social aspect of hanging out in a fun place and just having a couple of beers with their friends, and they don't want to get housed. You can get housed on your own time. And I think the Colorado scene has really kind of like, the Colorado scene has so many places that have specialized and have done it so well, and people have learned from that. You have Beer Stop making world-class German lagers. You have Cohesion making world-class Czech lagers. You have Hogshead, which is still criminally underrated as some of the best English beer that I've ever had in this country. And you have those specialties, and then you have places like Second Dawn and Odyssey and tons of other ones that are doing a little more variety and really trying to dial in, some of the maybe not even classic styles. You can put your own spin on them, but maybe we're not trying to get super crazy with it. If you want to get technical, our West Coast IPA is probably more of a good old strong pale ale. And you know what? The sales just keep going up and up because it's something that people can drink, have a great time with their friends, and not be beaten over the head by hop burn and all the heaviness that can come with that.
I mean, you bring up an interesting point, and the two of you talking about Irish reds or red ales, like right off the bat, and I've been seeing this as well with a few more places having English milds on or brown ales and sort of like easy drinking things that are more malt forward. When I mean, there's no denying that IPA still rules in the industry, but there is something to it. And you mentioned some of the hop burn as well of maybe the fatigue, or do you think drinkers are looking for just something different these days where it's okay, we've had, and I know I sound like an ass when I say this, but like, okay, we've had every combination of Citra, Mosaic, Eldorado, Idaho 7 that's out there. We just want something else. Like, what, like,
I think
why
it's
malts? Yeah.
some of it is malt and some of it is lighter hop stuff. I think it's more the social aspect of it. Like, I've been a beer nerd since 1996, and at the time, all they wanted was the biggest and strongest and craziest thing. And then over decades, what I really wanted to do was go have 2 or 3 beers with my friends and just know that I'm going to have something good and not go too crazy with it. And I think we see a lot of that here at Odyssey, where people are here to hang out with their friends and hang out for a few hours and have a few beers. And maybe they'll have one that's a little higher alcohol, like 6 or 7%, but they're going to lean towards something that is a little lower alcohol, but also they don't want it to taste like water. They want it to taste like something. Malt and like lightly hopped lagers can be a really good pathway to doing that and to getting people to come and hang out and have a really good time.
Ross, is that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd piggyback on what Andy said. Maybe to put what he said a bit more succinctly and to agree with him.
I use a lot of words. It's what I do.
Oh, you and me both, buddy. You and me both. But I think more so than anything, people want. I think at this day they want a demonstration of mastery of the craft, and so I think it's less to do with every permutation of Citra, Mosaic, and Eldorado under the sun, because, Andy and I can both tell you those are also some of our fastest selling beers that have that. But I think it's also like my West Coast IPA is far and away, outsells everything else in my portfolio 2-1. And, pretty much it's not Eldorado, it's Strata, but it's a Citra, Strata, Mosaic, West Coast IPA. Sells
all this
great.
sounds familiar. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Andy has something quite similar. Yeah, but really, I think what people want is, if you're going to do that, it needs to be fresh. It needs to be tasty. It needs to be balanced. It needs good bitterness. If it's in the hazy format, it needs to be pillowy and soft and, great expression of that hop. I don't think it's quite so much of people like, oh, I just don't want the hypey hop burn stuff. They just want something that, they seem to just be reacting to like, I just need this thing to be a banger. Again, like beating the head on cost, it's like, if you're buying a $22 4-pack of hazy IPA, you're not really going to gamble on that. And so like, I think with a lot of what we do is mostly just demonstrating the mastery, the competence, this is an excellent worth your money 4-pack of hazy IPA, West Coast IPA. And kind of to Andy's point, as people are making, since there's so many tap rooms in and around the Denver area, the Colorado, state of Colorado in general, if you're not, people are getting excited, I think, about the Irish Reds, both, I think, within that context of it is different, haven't seen it in a while. And then, frankly, they, when there's people that they trust that, oh, they're going to do this well, it kind of gets, it's that nice chocolate and peanut butter combination, people just really, they want to get, they just want to sink their teeth into it.
I agree with what Ross is saying on cost too. Like, yes, we could do a bunch of IPAs that are 6 to 7 pounds per barrel dry hopped, and we could try to sell them for $24 or $30 a 4-pack, and it might work. But what we'd rather do is lean on our experience and try to make something that's 2 pounds per barrel dry hop, maybe 3, and try to make the best fucking beer we can. Like, and if you can do that and use those hops in a better way and then get that to the consumer at a more reasonable price, we'd rather do that.
I mean, that's so important as well. And it also just makes it more accessible. And I mean, you're right. When you started off by saying everything is so expensive these days, from the consumer standpoint as well, I think there's a lot of people who want to be buying beer and they want to be able to, afford beer and get a good experience out of it. And just keeping the customer in mind, I think, is smart these days, and especially even younger consumers as well, where, maybe the disposable income isn't there in the way that some of us had when we were just starting off drinking, or, maybe it was a little bit easier. Yeah,
100%.
that's, yeah. So one of the cool things Colorado does is really smart beer festivals and ones that bring people together. And GABF is obviously I guess, one of the larger ones. This year, it's going to be markedly smaller. But Collaboration Fest, the Collaboration Fest that's coming up in a week or so, I've been hearing about this for years. I've never been able to get to it, but every year the lineup looks really cool. And again, you two as state industry veterans, for those of us who are unaware of how cool this experience is, how cool is this experience?
Very.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody.
I remember it. It's funny. Like, I remember my first collab fest. I want to say it was probably 2013, 2014, something like that. I missed the first couple of years, but we did a collaboration, 2 collaboration beers with Verboten in Loveland. This is when I was at New Belgium, and we did the concept was the world's tiniest black and tan. So we made a Girl Scout cookie, like a Girl Scout cookie black and tan, where it was a dry mint stout floated on top of a vanilla, like a heavy vanilla cream ale, and just sitting there at the taps all day, just trying to float frickin' beer. But it was cute. It was adorable. The beers turned out great. But one, I think, like, you just get so much creativity out of it. But I think, like, really what makes it special is it's a really, like, easy distillation and articulation of just craft beer in general and Colorado craft beer in specific. Just that all the brewers turn out for it. It's not a bunch of sales guys. No offense to the salespeople of the world, but it's like people really go all out and try and do wacky, fun, impressive things. And just, all the brewers are there. We're all hanging out. We're all, giving hugs and high fives and stuff like that. It just, like, it's a really nice, easy to grasp, just a state of the culture that, what we've all collectively built. And, we all just get to kind of show up and celebrate and do a thing that, a lot of it, for a lot of ways, we do it for ourselves. And our customers and our fans just to get to kind of enjoy with us kind of while we celebrate every year. Oh, what do you think, Andy?
Yeah.
Every year when I walk in, I've been to, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them. It almost feels like it's a festival that's made for the brewers, because you're going in there and running into all of your friends. Even 15 years ago, like let's say 20 to 15 years ago, pretty much every brewer that I know would share pretty much any secret they had, any trade secret, any way to make a better beer with every industry person that they knew. And about 15 years ago, I started to get scared that, like, what if the new generation of brewers was gonna not do that, not turn it into this giant collaboration between all of our fellow brewers. And I'm happy to say that I was proven totally wrong. The local brewers in Colorado trade their secrets all the time, because we're all trying to help each other make better beer, help each other sell more beer, and do all the best things that we can. And Collaboration Fest is kind of like it is that distillation of that. The Colorado Brewers Guild has really set up an incredible event for over 10 years that is incredible for the industry and incredible for the people that come to just have fun and drink some beer. It might be my favorite festival of the year. And I love me some GABF after going for, a couple decades plus.
Yeah. So one of the things, as I was looking through the beer list for this year's Collaboration Fest, is there is creativity. And Ross, you kind of brought this up with what you did with Verboten of, I think a lot of times collaborations are, okay, it's something for the tap room. So like, we're not going to get too crazy. And it's, hey, I'm a lager brewer. You're an IPA brewer. You're coming to my place. Like, let's make a lager, like vice versa, like that kind of thing. And there's fundamentals that can be learned in collaborations. And, sometimes it's just, hey, let's give the new shift brewers a lot of work to do while, the more senior brewers go out for a nice long lunch, and we'll come back for the
that would
photo.
Never happen.
Maybe that's an East Coast thing. Maybe that's just the things that I've experienced of we'll get the photo of dumping the T90s in, and then we're hey, it's lunchtime. But this seems like it really is a let's get creative. Let's flex our brains a little bit. Let's be wacky. Let's be process driven. Let's kind of mess around. So tell me about one, how you two came together to make a beer this year, and then what the beer is.
So Ross and I have known each other for a long time. I was at Avery doing innovation R&D for a long time. Ross is at New Belgium for a long time. And over the last couple of years, I don't think we've actually judged together at the GABF, but we've been at like tables next to each other and just keep running into each other all the time. So we were able to kind of like reconnect. And even for the last 2 years, like we should really like do a collaboration one of these days. And fortunately, Collaboration Fest is there and kind of kicked us in the asses to be like, yeah, look, we should actually do something. So we got together at Second Dawn a few weeks ago and just started throwing out ideas, because all that happens is you sit around, taste some beers, talk for half an hour or an hour, and something pops up. So we talked about taking, stouts and adjuncting them, using barrel-aged stuff, because obviously we've both done a bunch of that. And then at some point, I think Ross was Ross, I think you're the one who brought up, like, what if we did like a Mai Tai beer? We're like, yeah, that could be fun, like a Mai Tai hazy IPA. And then we talked about it for about 20 minutes and talked about the adjuncts for it before we realized that we weren't talking about a Mai Tai at all, because someone finally Googled it after 20 minutes. And it turns out we were talking about the cocktail, the Painkiller. So then we started talking about a hazy IPA with the flavors of a painkiller. So pineapple, orange, coconut. And then kind of started working from there on what we would both do on malt bill, on hop bill, on how to adjunct it, and how to do it right and make something that, it's kind of beer, like if you over flavor it, then people only want 2 ounces and you don't have something good. And the question is, like, can you make something that gets all the flavors of all the things you're talking about, but also make something that someone wants a pint or two of? And both Ross and I have extensive experience in all sorts of adjuncts, and that just seemed like the more logical and, quite honestly, more fun path than just adjuncting a barrel-aged stout. Does that wrap that up, Ross? I'm not sure. I might have missed some details.
I'd say so, except for then on brew day, we got to drink a bunch of rum. So, that was cool.
That is true. Well, because normally you have, the brewer's breakfast, the hot scotchies, where you take some of the first runnings and throw some scotch or bourbon in there. But we went and got a bottle of good dark rum, and got to say, it worked out really well.
Yeah, that was surprisingly delicious. I didn't think that was necessarily going to work. And
I know, I thought it was going to be too sweet also.
Yeah.
But hint to all brewers out there, dark rum works for brewer's breakfast.
Indeed.
So, I mean, with all of that, I mean, what did each of you, did it evolve? Were most of the conversations done in advance, or were you doing anything on the fly the day of, or during aging, during fermentation? Like, how does the collaboration process work for you two?
So I would say we probably baked 95% of it beforehand. It's nice, like working with a brewer like Andy. It's just, there's a lot of, we just end up kind of speaking in shorthand a lot. So, I think both as we, we're talking about the beer, working through all of the details of it, just that kind of like quick shorthand of just, what do you do? Does this make sense? Not make sense? All of that. That made it pretty easy to just kind of bake ahead. And, I think really at the end of the day, then it's just really kind of, us being the kind of the visiting brewery, I always take it just as kind of a personal philosophy. It's like, well, I'm here, one, to have a good time, to, either make friends or, build upon friendships. And then, kind of we kind of just end up spitballing about certain ingredients. One of the hops that we've really been liking and we ended up including in the final beer is a new hop called Dulcita, which, it has very peach candy kind of flavor to it, but it also, with its lineage, it kind of traces back into that like Neo-Mexicanus like breeding stock. So there's also a decent amount of coconut flavor in there. So it felt very appropriate both to kind of like layer some interesting hazy and fruity flavors that both will kind of like pair somewhat with the orange and the pineapple, and then also kind of give us kind of a back end way to kind of help accentuate that coconut aroma as well. Especially, within all of those, we want all those flavors to kind of cohere and gel in a way that nothing necessarily dominates. And coconut can be a very polarizing flavor. And so figure if we kind of bring the coconut flavor in two different ways, probably it'll give us, just a nice balanced, to Andy's point, a very drinkable beer, which ultimately at the end of the day, we want to do something fun and interesting. But, we also have to go out and sell it too. So, to be fair, I haven't had the beer since we knocked it out. So, no pressure, Andy. We'll taste it later this week, bud.
Yes, because when you're asking about how the collaboration goes, like Ross and I have been texting or calling, every couple of days, just because as we're going through things, I tell him, like, this is how I normally do my dry hops. This is the amount of time, the amount of rousing of CO2. Here's the poundage we're going for. And then just kind of bounce things off of him. And so on this one, so we used a bunch of pineapple puree and orange puree. For the coconut, we didn't want to get into the flake coconut version. We just literally want like the aromatic top note of it. And so for that one, like we will use an extract just to get that tiny little bit, but without getting the extra sugar and everything that can come from coconut. So hopefully Ross is going to stop by Wednesday or Thursday and we'll do some little trials and figure out what to do because, well, this collaboration fest is in 2 weeks. So we got to get this puppy out next week. But I actually just did a diastole check on it half an hour ago, and it has crashed, and it'll be ready to go in a day or two.
Hey, let's go.
That's
we're scheduling future work on a podcast, Andy. We're multitasking.
It is a fruity bomb with some hops. It's pretty fascinating. Like my coworker Nick, like I just done the sample of it just to get a gravity and all that stuff and all the D-check, and he would just walk by 5 minutes later. He's like, "Did you just pour a sample of that painkiller? Because I can smell that from 5 feet away." I'm like, all right, good, that's great.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, it's like it is vibrant. Like it's going to be a fascinating little beer.
What are some of the challenges, right? Because there's been beers that have mimicked cocktails in the past. I know I remember Garrett Oliver did it a couple of years ago. There's been some others that have come through. Lauren at New Belgium just did her final beer.
The Last Word.
The Last Word, which was a lot of fun to drink and really incredible. And there's been this idea, I believe there's been this idea in beer of if you say something to the consumers, they want it to taste exactly like that. And some brewers have met that where it's, this is our peanut butter and jelly porter and all it tastes like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or, a Swedish fish beer, or, insert any candy or cookie or anything here. Whereas, building the complexity of a cocktail like a painkiller is its own thing in mixology and is a different thing in beer. So it's an homage. It can evoke, like, what are the pitfalls? Probably isn't the right word, but the expectations of trying to make people think of something, but then still maintaining the soul of a beer.
I always start with I accept in my heart that I'm going to both delight people and disappoint people, depending on who's drinking it. You're going to hear about it one way or another. So, for me, I just kind of like, I've always like, even taking inspiration of cocktails in beers or any of those, like for me, just philosophically, like it still has to taste like a beer. Otherwise, like, what's the fucking point? It's just don't, not those that like take the opposite view of that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think you just have to pick a lane. Is this going to taste like a beer and still have the soul and heart of a beer? Or you kind of venturing into the world of, it's like a beer-based RTD almost, with all of the wild permutations that go along from that. Nothing wrong with that. Just, it's a philosophical choice. Pick a lane. If you try and hit the middle, both people are going to be upset. And so, I think Andy and I both are pretty philosophically aligned. Like, we still want it to taste like beer. It should taste like a beer, even though it's inspired by all these other flavors. Doesn't mean that you can't bring a lot of like bigness to it. But at the end of the day, I look forward to drinking this beer in a couple of days. Of course, I'm talking about our beer, having not tasted it. I think it's still the way that we laid it all out. It's like, it's a really big, juicy, fruity IPA that also just happens to have like the painkiller cocktail elements in there that, kind of inspire it and just kind of help amplify and lift all the other flavors that we're already bringing to it.
Is that square?
I cannot improve on that answer.
Excellent. As we talked a little bit about, the posing for the photo and then going out to lunch kind of thing. But as we are in this interesting point in beer in America right now, you two industry vets, being creative, doing cool things, being out there. What's the call to action to your fellow brewers when it comes to collaborations, whether or not they're for festivals that revolve around collaborations? Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Um,
Come on, Andy, what you got?
it's a hell of a question. Honestly, to me, collaborations don't have to be crazy. They don't have to be wacky. Um, they can literally be learning from your friends and sharing those tips that all help us make better beer. I do think that the craft beer consumer also likes to see that we are all friends. Like if we have so many industry friends within 5 miles of our brewery, and they love to see that we are all working together to do fun stuff. And so, not everything is going to be a 3 fruited, triple dry hopped IPA, aged on seahorse hooves. That's not like that. Those are fun. They're fun for collaboration fest and all that. But frequently, it's about us all like kind of sharing our hints and secrets on how we've been able to make great beer over the years. When I need to make a lager, I go talk to folks at Beer Stock, and it's and the fact that Ashley and Bill will just like, yep, here's our brew sheet, here's what we do.
Oh yeah.
So let's see what you can do too. It's like that's incredible. That kind of community is it's invaluable. It's really incredible. I think that's the biggest part of collaborations.
Ross, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Andy and I both laugh when it's just like, oh yeah, all the senior brewers just go out to lunch, and the juniors just actually do the brewing. I think it's to a certain degree. My succinct advice to other brewers is like, both with collaborations and just generally in this environment, is just lean in, show up, and give a shit. It's for Andy and I, like Andy made the beer. Granted, I helped, but like
you shoveled real good, buddy. You shoveled great.
Hey, I've spent a lot of years on that shoveling technique, but I think more so than anything in this moment of craft beer, I think mostly what's happening right now, I think is there's a certain degree of, if we want to call it, the more venture capital backed side of the business that, people just trying to hyperscale, grow, achieve an exit. Most of that's kind of gone. And so, like, I think more so than anything, our customers can taste whether or not, like, you put effort into this, whether you put like love and a piece of yourself into not only the collaborations that you make, but just everything that you make. Like beer fundamentally can have soul to it. And it's very obvious when people don't put that in. And so more so than anything, no matter what you're doing, is just show up and give a shit. Otherwise, frankly, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Ross and I did not go out for a 3 margarita lunch while we were doing our collab.
Nope.
We were hanging here with the coworkers and owners of Odyssey and becoming even better friends.
That's it.
I like that.
We did 4 margaritas after.
I was going to say,
we did have the rum scotchies or rum.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever. Yeah. But, we didn't have 10 of them, though. We just had like 5 or 8.
Yeah. The gentleman size pours. That's fine.
Absolutely.
We are adults, John.
Yes. Yeah. Make your own decisions. It's sometimes those decisions bite future you in the ass, and sometimes they don't. It's fine. Well, I hope people go to the Collaboration Fest. I hope they get a chance to try this. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to be out there this year. It's on my list for next year. But before I let both of you go, I wanted to ask each the green door question, and the premise is this: I've been asking this since the beginning of COVID. On the television show The Good Place, there's the concept of a green door where the characters can walk through it and be wherever they want, doing whatever they want. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence and this conversation ended and you could walk through it and be in any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking? And Ross, I'll start with you.
Oh, that is a fabulous question, John. Need just one?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is typically, the right answer, but
So the one immediately I would revisit a memory. For I happened to get married the same year as my 5-year anniversary at New Belgium, which many people know. At your 5-year anniversary, you get a all expenses paid week in Belgium, and so my wife and I went and did our honeymoon after the trip, and so I would walk through that door, go back to 2016 with my wife, and I would go sit out on the patio of the West Flettern Monastery in Belgium and drink a couple of Westy 12s.
I love that.
Yeah.
Andy?
Ondex in Germany.
Yep.
Doppelbock on the back patio, looking out at goats and farmland in the quietest, most beautiful scene I think I've ever seen at a brewery. Drinking one of the best beers I've ever had.
I love that.
I don't know if I can top that one.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds lovely.
Don, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So we're talking about collaboration stuff.
Yeah.
Are there other states that have collaboration fests? Because it's been such a success here that it seems crazy to me that someone else hasn't been doing it.
I was supposed to look this up while we were talking and I forgot. I think Vermont does one. Let's see. Thank God for computers.
Well, and even if not, I guess I would encourage the Colorado Brewers Guild, our local guild here, has set this thing up for a decade plus. It's amazing. I guess I would just encourage any other state brewers guilds to do a collaboration fest. Reach out to the CBG folks. I mean, you could do one in Chicago alone.
Sure.
Just Chicagoland alone could easily do a 50 beer collaboration fest, and it is an absolute fucking blast. It almost seems like a no-brainer to me.
I agree with that. I thought Vermont did one, but nothing's coming up. But I mean, you see them now and again for conferences and things like that. But to have a real festival, I think would be a fun, repeatable idea in other states. And it also it helps with that camaraderie, and it helps get people, drinkers and brewers alike, out of their comfort zones and trying new things, and it pushes everything forward. So I'm sorry, I told you right before we started, I was like, oh, I'll look into that, and then I didn't, because I was enamored with your answers to the earlier questions, and then I
am so angry, John.
You should
have
be.
No idea.
You should be. I mean, it's the lack of professionalism on this show that people have come to know and expect after 6 years of this particular show on the air. So, hey guys,
I got one more for Ross, actually.
Okay.
Ross, has anyone ever told you that you sound like a young and vibrant Carl Sagan?
Shit, man, I'll take it. I feel like I need to start smoking more, though.
Is Carl Sagan a big smoker?
I think so. I think he was like 2 packs a day.
Well, you definitely don't have a smoker's cough. but just from knowing you for 15 years now, there's just this lilt to your voice that has always reminded me of Carl Sagan, and I don't think I've ever told you in person. And so I just wanted you to know that that's you can name a beer billions and billions, and it would work.
I like that. I like that.
I'm here for you.
So, appreciate you, buddy.
I'm
All right, that's my last time interrupting you, John. I swear.
No, that's fine. I mean, you can keep going. I mean, the show has to end, but you guys can keep going. That's fine. Thanks for sitting down and talking this morning, guys. I appreciate it, and thanks for making a cool beer that people are, I imagine, are going to enjoy and bring them some joy. So, appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing you both in person soon enough.
Likewise. Thanks, John.
What's a collaboration you've had that knocked your socks off? Tell me about it. You can reach me via email. It's John Holl, that's JOHNHOLL at allaboutbeer.com. Make sure you join the This Week in Rauch Beer group on Facebook, or follow at TW Rauch Beer on Instagram. Upload your photos, join the smoky conversation. You can support us by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support. And when you're at the website, you can check out new content as well as the archives, which go all the way back to 1979. You can follow links to follow All About Beer on social media. Before we run, here's a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
Tim here again from Berkeley Yeast. My favorite part about Tropics in a dried format is that it makes it easy to use Tropics more like an ingredient than a yeast strain. It's a great tool for turning tropical flavors up or down. Tropics on its own makes big notes of passionfruit and grapefruit, which is great for a lot of recipes, but sometimes you want to dial that thiol character down. Easy. You can just co-pitch at different rates with your house strain. If you want to dial it up, especially if you're using a pretty aggressive hop bill, then just add Tropics Boost. It's pure precursors dissolved in water and ethanol. Go to berkeleyyeast.com to find out how to turn the thiol dial to exactly where you want it.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60 Minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60 Minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
If you like smart audio content, a reminder that All About Beer has a separate podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Listen to shows like Brew to Brewer, which is now a weekly show, and the All About Beer podcast with M. Souter and Don Tess. One Iconic Beer is also on that channel. It's hosted by Jeff Allworth. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday. The BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. And as for this show, Nate Schweber does the music. Jeff Quinn designed our logo. I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.